Welcome, everyone, to being at home with George during the time of COVID. I'm excited about having this opportunity to talk about this time with all the crises going on and what we do here. What I encourage us to do is to open to the possibility of being able to embrace the hurt and generate the hope. Now, there's been a slight change because I've been saying hold the hurt for all these many weeks. And I was reflecting on it this past week, and I realized holding something is it's helpful to hold it, but sometimes we hold things too much. And so embracing the hurt is really important. And so it's a subtle distinction, but I think it's more accurate. And so this is where we are in this time right now. We know this COVID's going on. We know that it's close to 6 million people that are infected, and over 180,000 people who have perished. And we just had hurricanes in some parts of the country, and the social unrest or the social injustice or social justice is happening to the degree that we end up having the major sports stars really coming out in a big way, in a historical, unprecedented way of saying, wait a minute, this is so important that we have to pause and really talk about this and really bring attention to this. And so it's interesting because I don't watch a lot of TV, but I keep up with what's going on. So because of the NBA boycott of those three games, you've had the other teams, the WNBA, the NHL, the MLB, NFL, and I understand soccer teams, and some teams maybe internationally are stepping up because this issue of understanding that Black Lives Matter affects everybody on a global level, not just here. And it was interesting today because I was thinking about it and reflecting on listening to the players, and what I got today that I didn't get when they first stopped was the fact that the players feel frustrated, not just the players, the coaches, um, feeling frustrated, tired, and feeling like nothing has changed. And from my personal point of view, this is not new. This has been going on for all of my 68 plus 69 years. This is not anything different. It's just that it's televised now. And that unless we start, and I think with the George Floyd, I think people are starting to see and starting to get beyond the illusion of separateness and realize that that person that can't breathe, or that person who is being shot, unarmed person being shot in close proximity, while their T-shirt is being held, that is just not okay, and it stirs up a lot of things. But it also brings to light that the fact that I've been dealing with it, and I have a process to deal with it. So I've been able to manage it for the most part. But seeing these young folks and even these old folks being so frustrated and being so weak because because we see it, whereas before it was there, but it was on a down low, and if no one caught somebody doing it, it just kept happening. And so now it really has to do with embracing the hurt and just really realizing that it's we got to see that what it means to be a Black person, a person of color, or a woman, or a person that may be a different religion or sexual orientation, or just being perceived as other, and especially in a time of crisis, all of that anger is being projected, and especially if you're an immigrant, all of these things where there's coming from. I feel like it's coming from. I like to talk about we're either in survival mode, which is the reptilian brain, or growth mode. And there's something about when we have demagogues, or we have people that are stirring up division and bringing out the hate, or flaming the fear, that we come out of this place of fight, flight, or freeze, or we're in survival mode. And it's very challenging to be in survival mode and growth mode at the same time, or to be so much in fear that there's no love there, or there's no openness, there's no compassion, there's no tolerance. And then you see where we create with the word. So you make all of the protesters, even the peaceful protesters, all anarchists and rioters and looters, and it could it can manifest where some young person, like a 17-year-old, can take a gun and go into a place thinking he's protecting property, not people, and he can shoot and kill two people, wound someone else, and then go home and it's like nothing happens. How does that happen? There's a direct relationship between the word or what people are saying or how we are demonizing each other to be things where people are not connected with their humanity. And you can see it. It's like, and the victim's mother was saying how, we got to look in our hearts and if we're connected with humanity, if we get beyond that illusion of separateness, then we can find solutions that are not using deadly force or not even starting off by pulling a gun on someone or whatever. But that's what happened. But metaphorically, it's how we're relating to each other and honoring what it means to be a person of color and not know when you're driving your car, even just doing nothing, not knowing there's not anything you could do that can prevent somebody from coming and shooting you. Now, people say, "Oh, well, that's not really like that, George." Well, we're seeing that, and I happen to live in an area where that doesn't happen as much. But when I lived in that area, that I experienced that. And so, what am I talking about here? I'm saying that we need to figure out how to do this, get beyond illusion of separateness, and we have to start by the individual self. It starts with me. In spite of all of that I've been experiencing, can I embrace the hurt, embrace the deep pain, embrace the history, going back 400 years, maybe more than that. If you really think about, you can go back to Egypt when we make fellow man beast of burden, as Moses talked about. We have to get to a place where we see that I and the other are one. We get beyond this illusion of separateness, and we can agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable, and then not objectify each other. So I've talked about this before, about the whole person. I have a body, mind, heart, and soul or spirit. And if you relate to me, or if I relate to myself and leave out one of those aspects of myself, then I'm relating to myself as a thing, not a person. And it goes with each other. If you see somebody as just a threat, as a body, and not connect with their heart, mind, and soul, and the fact that just like me, they want to be happy and they have kids, and when you get to the point where you're in such survival mode or the reptilian brain that you're willing to do things with children around and shoot somebody in the back, or to handcuff kids, little girls, and have them face down because you think they're in a stolen car. How does that happen? There's a separation of looking at other as a thing. And we got to really get to that. And it's deep, and it's institutionalized, and it's tolerated. It's tolerated. And so we have to change the paradigm, because you have to think about all of these months we've been doing this stuff, especially with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the others. And you have people who don't feel like they're in such automatic pilot or in the reptilian brain. There's no space between stimulus and response, and they're doing deadly force because that's what all they know. And they have impunity. So why not do it? Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I broke into the wrong house and shot people up. Oh, that's my bad. So my thing is not to make anybody wrong, but to really look at how the heart can be, or how we can cut off parts of ourselves or cut off parts of other people, so we see them as things and not as a person. And so so for me, it's how do we do this, and what can we do about it? Because I hear the helplessness, the hopelessness, and it's like no matter what we do, if I put up my hands, if whatever I do, I'm probably going to get shot, or I may get shot if the person feels threatened. And I know this personally. I can go back to my youth, but I'll go back to when we had 9/11 in New York, when the towers went down. So during that time, I was traveling a lot, going out to LA to work with my client out there, the LA Lakers, and I had to get on a plane. And so we're all in line, and it's a new protocol. You have National Guard soldiers with their M16s, and they're pointed down and everything. And so they had us in a line. So one person would walk up and then show their credentials and then get on the line. And so when my time came and I stepped forward, the young lady pointed the gun at me. she pointed a gun at me, and I said, "Whoa." She said, "Back up." I said, "Well, how am I going to show you my credentials if I don't move forward?" And so in my mind, it was like, what would happen if this was in the dock and nobody was around? She would have shot me and said, "Well, he threatened me. He was a threat." How can I be a threat? I mean, I had on my my normal clothes, and like everybody else, I was just moving through the line. But in her mind, she has a perception that I'm a threat, even when I'm not. And so if there wasn't some regulation there with her partner and other people being around and me saying, "Wait a minute," I probably would have got shot. And I wasn't doing anything other than doing what she asked me to do. And so if it doesn't matter what I do, I'm in jeopardy because of how I look. That's a problem. We have to deal with that. We have to deal with that individually. It's not just my problem, it's our problem. It's our problem. We have to really look at this, have these conversations, say, how do we need to be so we're not continuing to do what we need to do? And if there's people in places of power or that are fanning the flames or increasing the divisiveness or increasing the hostility and the inherent racism, then we need to vote them out of office, and we need to talk to people who are voting and make sure they take responsibility for, okay, you vote for someone that does that, but you say because you don't like the other person, what you're also saying is it's okay for what is happening to continue to happen. And so we have to be really clear about that. It's not about Democrat, Republican. I feel like it's about who is bringing us together, who is talking about love, compassion, who is getting beyond the illusion of separateness and willing to talk to each other, not talk at each other, talk down to each other. But it's not a equivalent. It's not an equal. Both sides are guilty because one side has all the power. It's not willing to share it. And even in the conversation, it's because we don't feel good. We have to get defensive for whatever we do, and it's only by opening up and embracing the hurt. I'm talking both sides, so, and then generating the hope, because it's only through hurt and seeing what's there, knowing the truth, and the truth shall set us free. And I say, okay, maybe I'm not. I don't see myself as a racist, but if I'm acting in a way where I have one young man that's praying with people, then kills them all, and then he gets taken into custody, and they stop off and give him McDonald's versus someone else who just maybe be standing under the street light smoking a cigarette. We handcuff him and throw him on the ground and put him in the car. It's saying something. So what's the difference? What's going on? It's the mindset, and it's this inherent racism or inherent bias. I won't call it racism. It's implicit bias. And it can happen. You don't have to be a white person to do that. You could be a black person. You could be a female, because it's the same mindset. It's a culture. It's something that we have to come to grips with. We have to be able to embrace the hurt and be able to look at it and then generate the hope. How do we do this? What do we need to do? So we need to have conversations on how we can listen to each other as whole people and start to see each other as whole people and see mutual benefit, mutual respect, and not get into the reptilian brain where we're seeing others as a threat. And what do you do with threats? You either ignore them or you destroy them. That's what you do.